Oh, look at the floor. He's doing a good job with it.
You're strangely doing a really good job. That was really straight.
Today is a new day.
Out of all the places we visited in Jamaica, Kingston for me was the place that I understood the least. We'd spent weeks travelling around the rural areas, coastlines, you know, the suburbs of Jamaica, surrounded by nature and birdsong, surrounded by small town people and local vibes. And arriving in the city, Kingston, the heart of Jamaica, the capital, was a real shock to the system. It has all the elements that every upcoming capital should have. It's vibrant, it's lively, it's bustling, but it also has its downfalls as well. And it was noisy and it was dirty and polluted. There's an international population there, from Chinese and British expats to every culture that you could imagine. In terms of accommodation, we stayed in a place called Long Mountain Country Club, and it's just northeast of uptown Kingston. In true Dashley style, it was out of all of the madness and perched up in the midst of Beverly Hills. And this complex, man, it was insane. It was like an American suburb. Think Wisteria Lane in Desperate Housewives, you know, perfect houses, perfect manicured lawns, white picket fences, people jogging around in the early evening with their iPhones in. The apartment was really nice, it had everything that we needed. And we found it on Airbnb. Long Mountain Country Club is a gated community as well, so there's security at the entrance to prevent any crazy people coming in and out. I have friends who are living in Kingston now who just, you know, live normally. I don't think it's a necessity to stay in a gated community, but it's good to know there are options like that. Getting around Kingston for me was not as easy as it seems. Yes, of course, there was bountiful route taxis and buses, but I found it a bit complex, and we were only there for a few days, and I think you'd need at least a week, maybe even 2, to get your head around which route taxis run where and whatnot. So we ended up just paying for taxis and using a service called On Time Taxis, who are very good. Well, there was that one occasion where we was waiting for one 10 minutes away for an hour. It's a taxi service used by lots of local expats, and they're considered to be very safe. They're licensed and insured taxis, vetted drivers. So, and it's not as pedestrianised as you'd think it would be, considering how many tourists coming in and out of the area and along the highways. You know, the pavement's really narrow, and especially when you're pushing a buggy, they can be quite hard to navigate. We stayed mainly uptown, and in terms of things to do up there are loads. Highlights for me though were the Bob Marley Museum. If you don't love reggae and Bob Marley now, you will come out of there loving him. If you do love Bob Marley and reggae now, you'll come out of there loving it 10 times more. So we came home with a little token of our appreciation for the man. Just 10 minutes down the road from the Bob Marley Museum, walking, is Devon House. Now, I didn't know this, but Devon House was owned by the Caribbean's first black millionaire, this guy called George Stibel. And yeah, it's a beautiful colonial house set on some lovely grounds. The grounds are kind of a bit of a park for the locals now, so you can go and sit under a tree and chill. And obviously there's the infamous Devon House ice cream shop is there as well. That's pretty delicious. Well, Alape thought so anyway.
Is that nice?
The only other place that we went while we were in Kingston is Port Royal. Port Royal is actually one of the best places to get seafood in Kingston, and I can vouch for that. Port Royal is where it all began, you know. It's where Kingston grew from. It's where Jamaica made its name. And we're going back like 400 or 500 years to like the 1600s now. Port Royal used to be the richest and most dangerous, violent place on earth. One thing that was really interesting to find out was about the Buccaneers. Now, these guys were funded by the British government to look after Port Royal. However, it all sort of got out of control, you know, and you can imagine you've got a bunch of criminals creating their very own gangster's paradise in the Caribbean, and the British were like, shit, these guys are getting out of control. In 1692, there was an earthquake, and over half of Port Royal was swallowed up into the sea. The destruction of Port Royal is what led, you know, all the town builders and the townsmen of the time into the harbour. So yeah, like I just find it really interesting that Port Royal was this whole world, you know, before Kingston was established, before it was the capital, before it was anything. I also found it funny to understand that the trend of like corrupt politicians paying criminals to manage areas is a trend that's kind of continued into today. So yeah, that's it guys. That's our time in Jamaica done. Unfortunately, I didn't really get a chance to deep dive into Kingston in the way that I would like, so I definitely have to go back. If you have any tips or places that I should visit when I go to Kingston, please hit me up and let me know below, because I'd love to add it to my bucket list and get my head around that city in a way that I got around the countryside. Next time on The Constant Wanderer, the Dash Season Jamaica series has come to an end as we say goodbye to Kingston. However, there are still 10 things that every British Jamaican should know about Jamaica before they visit.